everybody and welcome on today's video. Today it's a stunning 16 degrees Celsius here and it is amazing to see that spring is coming back. I have a couple of little things to do, not really one video about one tree or something like that. So, well, little things need also to be done, so let's start. So here in one of the big pots is this little mountain ash, rowan. I looked it up, I think that's the correct name. And I collected that a year ago, but it had a year to recover. It's leafing out right now. And what I want to do is get it out of the pot, have a quick look at the roots and the root base, and then it can come back in the same pot. But as you know, if you want a good root base, you have to check it often. So let's go back to the bench, give this a wash, and then we'll see what we can do about these roots. So this isn't an impressive tree with an impressive root base, but it's doing well. And that means that I can now select some of these roots. Now it has a horrible point here with inverse taper, but I'm not too worried about that. I think that could disappear in the future. So what I have is a twin trunk with one branch here, which I don't mind. That little one, I got rid of that. I cut a big root here and you see smaller roots are taking over. And that's what I want to encourage, of course, this year. So I'm gonna shorten this big one again. And on the other side, I'm gonna do exactly the same. There's a root right here, which is not in a good direction, but it's closer to the trunk. So that's the one that I wanna keep. I can shorten everything a little bit, and then at the top I have a stump that I can probably reduce a little bit more, like so. Clean up to get a better transition. And the same for this branch here. Like so. And then a drop of wound paste. A little bit here. And a little bit there. And that's all. It's a couple of minutes of work, but this will make an enormous difference in the coming years. So let's get this back in the big pot. Nothing fancy, nothing complicated. I'm just going to loosen that soil, get a little bit of soil here, get a little bit of soil there, and then make a little hill right in the middle, like so. And then the tree comes on top of that hill. This is a root that I cut off, like this. Cover it up. And that's probably all the work that I'm gonna do on this tree this year. So that's not much, but I know that I'm working on a nice radial root base that will turn out great in the future. So while I'm working at, well, a lot of little things, well, here is half a bag of my reused substrate that I'm letting here to dry, and then I can sieve it and well, I'll have new substrate for the next potting season. But it's always best to make it dry, so that's a little easier. Next on my list is this fusion privet. I changed some of the spider. I changed my raffia into a rope, just a regular rope, which is also something that perishes. And even my new added back branch is doing quite fine. I have new buds here, so that's really nice. One thing that bothers me a little is this branch here. I think is a little heavy for this portion of the tree. So maybe I'll try to reduce it just a little, but therefore I need to cut this big wire here, this light brown wire. I'll come a little closer to show you. It's not that there's really a problem with this part of the tree, it's just a structural thing. I think it's gonna be better if this branch just stays a little lower, and therefore I have the possibility of, well, if you look at it from the front of this side branch, I can use these two as the new top part of this branch, or even go a little lower, and I think I'm gonna go for a little lower. But of course I need to keep some tension on this branch, so I'll need to get my raffia off, and maybe I can use the same string of raffia, or I'll prepare another one. Well, I prepared another one, but I don't know if I'm gonna need it. The synthetic raffia is quite strong, but if it stays outside for some years, well, then it starts to become a little brittle. So maybe I'll just have to replace it. Maybe I could even try to get rid of this entire metal piece here in the middle. It might be a good opportunity to do that. Okay, I'm gonna remove this whole thing. So first unwire the raffia, or should I say unraffia the raffia. It's an interesting linguistic problem. Okay, I have it. Well, it's starting to bite in, so maybe it's a good idea to remove it completely. And then you think you have a 5-minute job, and then it ends up taking 20. Okay, so I'm going to get this wire out. Here it is. And I said that I wanted to keep this part as a new top, so I'm going to remove everything here. I think that's a little better. It makes the tree a little more thin, and then I can maybe do a little bud selection, because there's a new bud here, so maybe I don't need this, and this will increase the taper. So it almost started to fuse, and I'm loosening it, but okay, that's part of the deal. So I'm going to wire this back, but now in a more conform way. I'm going to start from the division here and try not to rip off too much of the new buds. This one is causing problems. Okay. So an anchor point here. and then I can wire that. Again, reused wire does the trick, so why not? And I'll wire this little branch here just to give it a little movement, but very loose. Okay. Well, now that I'm doing all this stuff, I might as well try to remove that piece of thick wire. I'm going to do it the hard way, so I will first of all wire what is wired with the raffia. And then try to pull the thing out, but first I need to cut off all these pieces of raffia, and of course this is not very interesting to watch, so I'll just shut the camera off and I'll show you the results. Well, that went rather well, I must say. Yeah, so the tree is now free of these two big wires, and of course it leaves a little gap, but no harm done, I think. Just going to have to maybe wait a little longer before everything closes and fuses, but that's not a big problem. So maybe just have a look at some dead stumps, remove these, maybe have a look at, oh yes, that's an interesting point. So I'm going to show you. You see, this is a branch with 3 sub branches, and lots of the time people take one off and it's the middle one. Now you're gonna end up with a branch like that. So it is also possible, if you want to end up with a branch like this, to remove one of the side branches, which I'm gonna do. And now you see the split will be a little more interesting, and I can also wire this here, which will make the same view, but with not that empty space between the 2 branches. So I think that's a better way to prune these kinds of trees. But I must say that I made that same decision lots of times before. And yeah, now I'll have to adjust it, but okay, well, I think it's looking cool. Okay, next one. Okay, a little job that I often do with trees that were repotted the previous year, like this elm clump, raft, forest group, because this is kind of raft, this or a clump, but you know, more a raft, and this is a solitary tree, and then this is a solitary tree, and then here in the back we have a little cutting. Don't know why I did that, but it is here. Okay. And most of the time when you plant your trees, well, I plant them a little bit too deep into the pot because, well, they're not stable, but after a year, of course, they are. Now, you want to see some of these roots after a year, and that's why you also need to brush your root base. Well, I said you don't need to do anything if you don't want to. I mean, it's your tree. You are free to do whatever you want. So, I love moss, but for this time, I'm going to scrape it away. Not completely, no use. And by the way, if I want to do that nicely, I need a brush and not my tweezers. I'm also going to get this moss off, but I'm going to make sure that I keep the substrate under it. And now I'm going to try to remove 0.5 centimeter in order to expose some of the roots. And you see this is a little bit more organic, but with the watering the fines will disappear. Here we have a little root that is sticking up from last tree pot, so it's a good moment to remove that. Tree will not depend on this little root. Weeds, always weed your trees, because if you don't, it's gonna be a disaster rather soon. And because this is a clump forest raft tree, it's okay to have some, I won't say defectuous roots, but especially on a raft, it's a tree has a little history. So a raft is a tree that fell over but did not die, and well, while the trunk was laying on the ground, some new branches sprout up right up to the skies. And then of course, well, the tree formed new roots also, and it all looks a bit messy and wild and accidented, and that's exactly what you want to see in your raft. Well, what I want to see. So, a good moment to expose all these features, and this time I'm going to call a accidented root base a feature, because it is a feature in this type, in this style. So that's half a centimeter, maybe more, removed. Again, a little weed, like so. And now let's see if there are any roots that we could correct. So here we have a very small root, which is of no importance. Again here, so I'll have to search these. This is, well, small, but not too small. This might become interesting, so I'm gonna leave that. This is definitely too small. This is a dead stump. You don't want that. My God, it's hard. Ah, got it. Here, okay, this is a dead root. Yeah, so I'll remove that. Very small roots, no use, growing straight up. So I think that I did my 360. A final brush. And with the next waterings, the organic parts in this soil will be flushed away gradually, and only the nice, not organic matter will remain. And just for the look of it, I'm gonna put back my piece of moss somewhere here. And this time I'm going to remove all the particles that are visible in the moss. Well, most of them. Of course I'm going to miss some, but as you see, every day I try to walk around my benches and I'm doing these little things. And it's not spectacular, but it makes me so happy to live among my trees and to do every little thing that can be done to make them look as nice as possible. How about a little 360 for this one? So here it is. This is the front. The front right for the camera should be here. Yeah, something like that. So what I did the last time, I cleaned up some of the wounds here, some of the transitions, little wound paste everywhere. This tree is now happily growing. It should thicken, it should become bigger, and then once the first flush is out, reduce back and let grow again, and so on and so on and so on. And that's the real work with bonsai. It's not doing big stylings and things like that. No, it's keeping up with your trees on a daily basis, and that's what I like about it. So I think it's maybe a good time to say goodbye, to thank you for watching, and well, I hope to see you next time.